One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. Atlantic 10 Commissioner Bernadette McGlade and Associate Commissioner Mike Vest are our guests today on One Question, and we get to talk about what I see as a really interesting extension of the A10 brand on Facebook Live. And the announcement came out late last week that you guys are going to do roughly 10 to 15 men's basketball games directly through the Facebook Live platform. And I want to start by understanding the story a little better. And I think the listeners of One Question and the readers of D1 Ticker would love to understand kind of the how this came to be and how you guys decided, hey, we're going to take this risk and we're going to put a package of games on Facebook Live and be one of the first to do it and see how it goes. So provide me with a little bit of the backstory first.
Thanks, Matt. It's great to be here. I think the backstory is pretty quick. Obviously, Facebook Live has this unbelievable platform, and we've been keeping our eye on it for the last year or so. Mike Vest is here with me today, and so, we have a unique situation with our media rights in that we have multiple partners that do a fabulous job with our linear distribution, and the opportunity to put some of our inventory that we held the rights to on Facebook Live basically opens up a new set of doors for us to get our inventory, get our games, our student athletes, our coaches in front of even more people than we are already in front of. And social media is, in many respects, the wave of the future, and we like to consider ourselves of always trying to be on the cutting edge of the future.
Right. So you mentioned your current media partners, and educate us on how, when you guys wanted to go to market with Facebook Live, how did the conversations go with your current media partners to say, we are going to take a selection of our games and push it to a new platform?
No, we have pretty clear contracts with our current media partners, which are ESPN, CBS Sports, NBC, American Sports Network, all four of them. And basically this inventory does not infringe upon their games that they hold the rights to. And so we were able to not only expand our distribution, but put even more of our games out there in what we would consider, mass distribution numbers.
And I don't think I saw this piece of information within the context of the announcement. How will you guys decide which games get pushed to Facebook Live? And is it almost like an opportunity to flex schedule this new platform?
The way that's going to work, Matt, is through looking at the games that are already being produced either by our schools as streams or games that are being produced by some of our RSN partners. So the games will come from one of those two buckets, and the productions that fans will see on Facebook will be effectively a simulcast of those efforts.
What has Facebook communicated to you guys on maybe the expectation of engagement or maybe even more so the expectation of how to judge engagement?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think because it's so new, I think that there's really kind of a view taken by both Facebook, their sports partnerships team, and by the conference of this being an experiment. I think the early returns of what we've seen, not in live game action, but in other instances where we've used Facebook Live, has all been very positive. Certainly, I think Facebook is rewarding those publishers that are using their live product right now. So I think that that's going to continue to be an emphasis for them. But in terms of hard numbers, it's a little bit difficult to say. And I think that that'll be incumbent upon us and our schools and Facebook to kind of help share that content among all of our partners to get it out to the widest audience possible.
And as this season progresses, you guys, if we see the upper limits of this 10 to 15 reached or beyond that, is that an indication to those of us sitting on this side of the table that things are going well? And conversely, if we see you do 10 or 11 games, is that an indication that maybe it hasn't hit the mark that you guys expected going in, or hasn't the engagement hasn't increased throughout the schedule?
Well, the 10 to 15 comes from before we get to the season, which is coming up soon, we'll have the hard schedule for the year. and won't really operate as a flex schedule the way that the NFL does, for example, where a game will get picked as we go through. We're going to know what our schedule is, and we'll have an announcement coming up pretty soon on that. But we're anticipating that that the audiences will be good. What good is remains to be seen, I think. And like we've seen, I think in the NFL, it sort of depends on what else is going on and how competitive the games are and things like that. So, but it won't be a true flex schedule in the sense where we won't know what the games are ahead of time.
And Matt, I would just add to that, I think one thing that was important to our membership, and I'm a firm believer in, when you take a risk and you jump out into a new venture, you have to give it time to run its course. And you have to, sort of stick with your game plan from start to finish. So, hopefully we're not looking at any type of knee-jerk reaction during the course of the year. We want to let all the games run, whether that's 12 or 14 or 15, once we set the schedule, and then we will do all the evaluation and, do all the vetting of the numbers when we get postseason.
Is the entire feed for the Facebook Live games from one of your partners now? Is there any additional revenue opportunities because of the Facebook Live piece?
Potentially over the long term. I think that a lot of that still remains to be seen in terms of how that will be sold in the future by different entities. So it kind of does go back to the viewpoint of this is an experiment. And I think as audiences grow, value becomes created, and the subsequent sponsor dollars can tend to follow that.
Is there an additional investment on your all's part on the back end from an infrastructure standpoint in order to be able to execute properly here?
No, not really. I mean, I think we've had a lot of quality infrastructure in place right now through a variety of different partnerships outside with different RSNs, but also from our schools internally. A lot of our schools have, over the last couple of years, made an investment that has, may not have been made with this particular initiative in mind, but it's an example of how that can pay off.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.